The kiln shelves don't look too bad, but they are in need for a little bit of a touch-up. So this is what I do when I'm working on them. You can see this one in particular has a big blob of glaze. I know you can get into, going down to the shop and using the grinding wheel and getting these all as smooth as possible, but really we don't have a whole lot of time for that, especially this year the way it is. So what I do is I'll just take a really small palette knife or chisel, and I don't want to use one that has a sharp point on the edge because I don't really want to gouge into the shelf, but I do want to get it just at the lip of that glaze, and then I'm going to take my hammer and I'm just going to give it a couple of taps on the back. Once you get it started, you'll be able to chip that right out of there. And if you've done a good job of kiln washing in the first place, then you shouldn't have any problem picking it right off. Now, whatever you do not brush this off with your hand, because you will be cut to bits. Make sure you always have your brush handy to get that off of there. Now, as you can see, it's going to leave a little bit of a damaged surface, but really it's not a gouge into the shelf itself. It's a removal of the former kiln wash. So what I'll do is I'll just scrape that so it's nice and smooth. I'm going to make sure there aren't any loose edges here, and I'll give it another good brush, and then a couple of coats of kiln wash will be all set for the year. I should also mention, if you're not wearing eye protection, you probably want to do that, because that little chips of glaze can flick up into the air really quickly, and you definitely do not want to have any pieces of glass glaze in your eye. That would be very bad. So that's how you take care of your kiln shells. So I brushed off the excess scrapings. I'm going to give them a quick wipe down with a sponge just to get the excess dirt off of here. And then I'm going to let them dry just a bit, and we're going to start painting on the kiln wash. If you do wipe this down with a sponge, again, make sure that you're careful in which sponges that you use, because if you give this a good hard squeeze and you've got a piece of that chipped off glaze in there, you can have some serious problems and getting cuts in your hand, so be careful of that. If you haven't purchased a box of kiln wash lately, chances are yours looks just about as old as mine looks. This stuff lasts forever. You really don't need much when you're going to cover each of your shelves, and the box lasts a very long time. So you can see, as you can see, this one's probably from, I don't know, the 70s, the 60s. The box is very old, but it still will work just fine. I don't necessarily use any kind of formula here. I just mix until I get a nice consistency, and that consistency should be a little bit like a very thin yogurt. So just start adding to a bit of water. If I don't use all of this kiln wash mixture this year, I let it dry out right in the bowl, paintbrush stuck still in it and all. And then the next year I want to come back and do something with it again. I just add a little bit more water and it'll rehydrate. I'll stir this a bit more so we don't have any lumps, but even now you can see the consistency is just about right. You want really thin yogurt. I will paint a layer on the shelf. I'll let it dry probably 2 or 3 hours. I'll paint a second layer on the shelf, let it dry another 2 or 3 hours, and then probably come back in with a third layer just to make sure that we don't have to worry about any more glaze stuck to the shelves this year. I won't use this immediately after mixing. I want to give it a little bit of time just to make sure that it's absorbed all that water and I don't have any dry bits in it. So I'll probably stir it up here and teach my first class, and then in about 45 minutes I'll come back and start painting the shelves.